going to work with a professional cleaner that I know and trust that can come in and take that burden from my sellers so that they can worry about packing up, making their future plans, and not having to worry about if their baseboards have dust on them and whether or not I'm going to come in and scold them.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin McIntosh, and joining us here at The Closing Table, we will be speaking with top producing professional in real estate, Courtney Rohlfs. How you doing, Courtney?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you for asking. I always appreciate that, Courtney. Well, we obviously have you here because you are a professional in real estate, and we want to pick your brain about that, talk about experience and insights. But before we go there, I have a quick game for you. It's an icebreaker. It's called Word Association. Got a couple of words related to real estate, obviously. I'm going to spew those out, and I just want you to give your first reaction, whether it be a word, a sentence, a definition, a rant, whatever the case may be. Sounds pretty good. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. First word, foreclosure.
Sad.
Okay. Second one, short sale.
Scary.
Okay. Capital gains.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Everyone loves capital gains, don't they?
I know, right? I know. Lastly, mortgage broker.
The best of the best.
Interesting. Okay. Why, thank you, Courtney. Just want to play a quick game that kind of gets us into your mentality, see how your mind works with certain things. But let's go ahead and get deeper into it right now. I just want to do a quick introduction of yourself. If you can, in 60 seconds or less, can you just tell our audience, who is Courtney outside of real estate?
Sure thing. So I am a mom to three little ones. I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So they keep me very busy. As such, we like to spend a lot of time outside. So I can tire the kids out and tire myself out. We like to spend a lot of time in our yard, do some gardening. We'll go camping. I love to read. I love to cook. I love real estate. So even when I'm not practicing real estate, I love to do home improvement projects. That's going to help me when and if we eventually sell.
Okay. All righty. Yeah. I always like to start there so we can get an understanding of who we're speaking to as a person outside of just the business. But let's get to the business now. All right. Before we really get into some things, I want you to describe your market, the current market that you serve for our audience who may have never been there.
Sure. So I serve a lot of Metro Detroit. I live in Farmington Hills. That's really my bread and butter is Farmington Hills. It's where I want to serve the most. However, I love to help people buying real estate. I love to see different types of style of homes, different areas. So I'll typically go within an hour of Farmington Hills. I've got knowledge in different markets because of that. Specifically looking at Farmington Hills, Livonia area, it's still pretty busy. There are certain homes where they might sit a little bit longer. We're seeing some trends in Farmington Hills specifically where homes are starting to sit, do some price reductions, maybe take a little bit longer than they would have, the past couple of years. These same homes would have sold within 2 days. But I think with rates increasing and people not feeling the frenzy, I think people have more time to kind of sit and think about their decisions and whether or not it's going to be the right choice for them, and whether or not the specific house that they're looking at is essentially worth the payment that they would be paying now versus last year. So things are slowing a little bit down here in Farmington. In other areas, it's still booming. You wouldn't, know that anything's changed. So it really just depends on where you're at.
Nice, nice. I'm a little familiar with the Farmington area. I have a few friends that live in that area. Very nice community, very family friendly.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would agree based on my knowledge too. But great, thank you for providing that insight. I want to talk about foreclosures and a situation I believe that you were recently in with an estate sale. I believe their estate sale was in the beginning stages of foreclosure, but you were able to navigate through all the obstacles to actually
Hmm.
get it sold. And not only get it sold, but I believe you were able to get the beneficiaries a profit from that. Let's
I
talk about that
was.
in general. So, what were some of those obstacles that you had to face, including maybe one of the biggest obstacles that you faced during that process?
Sure. So an estate sale in itself is already complicated, right?
Yep.
Because you don't typically, in my experience, the family members that are representing the estate don't have a ton of knowledge about the house. This
Mm,
particular house that we were selling was not maintained very well either. So there were a lot of questions as to what was still functioning, what needed work. Um, why were there, marks on the ceiling that might indicate a leak? We had no idea.
mm,
So that added some stress for my seller to begin with. Um, However, when you're in that situation, there's no liability on the seller. They're trying to just answer questions to the best of their knowledge, and that's what he did.
right.
Um, it's very emotional when you're dealing with an estate sale. This was a younger guy around my age, and it was his dad's house. So you have to imagine the emotions that and stress that can come along with something like that.
Correct.
So I had to kind of be there to take the stress away from him and put it on me. And part of that was making sure we had all of the documents that we needed from the court in order
Mm-hmm.
to sell the house to begin with. There's a lot of documents that are required by the state of Michigan in order to complete an estate sale. And sometimes we don't have all of those documents, which can be challenging.
Right.
We were lucky. My guy had his ducks in a row, so we got lucky on that side. Um, but I had worked with him for a couple of months, even getting the property ready, cleaning,
Mm,
painting,
mm.
just getting the junk out. I mean, this house hadn't been touched in a long time. It was
Oh my goodness, I can
a
only
little,
imagine.
yeah. It was definitely not move-in ready. So
Right.
we had some prep that we had to do. And in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime, as we're, facilitating some of these items to get ready to go enlist, we get a letter in the mail saying that we're in the beginning stages of foreclosure and that we had until X date to give the mortgage company back their funds or it was going to be theirs.
Mm.
So not only were we dealing with the court, but now we're dealing with the mortgage company and those
Yeah.
different timelines. So really just my plan of action was to just communicate with everyone involved. I made sure to first and foremost keep my seller in the loop of the ramifications of a foreclosure, what that can mean in regards to the estate and also just the day to day because when you're the seller and there's so much unknown, you've never done a real estate transaction in your life, let alone on behalf of somebody else.
Yeah.
um, just getting that communication daily of, hey, we had this showing, this is the feedback I received, you know stuff like that, just to keep him in the know. But
Mm.
then I had to do a lot of communication with the mortgage company. I had to track down more documents because with real estate there's tons tons of paperwork. So
Yep.
track that down and really just stay in touch with the collections department about what our plan was, kind of get the date of when everything needed to be done by, and get their permission to sell the property. When you're in the beginning stages of foreclosure, they're not always willing to allow you to do that. So
Mm.
we really had to stay in communication with that mortgage company. They're local. They were wonderful to work with and very understanding of the situation that we were in and showed
Okay.
us a lot of grace. I had to ask for a couple extensions, and they
Mm.
granted those to us. And at the end of the day, my client was able to walk with some profits that he wasn't expecting. I wasn't necessarily expecting either, given the condition of the home, but
Mm.
we did everything that we were able to do in order to make it a positive experience on his behalf.
There you go. Look at that. Wow, that sounded like an extensive, complex situation to be in. First and foremost, I gotta ask, was this a situation that you chose to be in, or did someone called you and said, you sold us this house, we need your help with this, or did you say I want to take on this challenge?
I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Mm.
It started off as a simple phone call from the seller. He was referred to me by a past client and wanted to know what it would take to sell the house in an estate situation. And that's,
Okay,
I'm pretty
okay,
comfortable doing estate sales. I've done them before.
okay.
So I thought that was going to be pretty straightforward. He, mentioned that the home needed a little bit of work, but
He
I
said a little
couldn't,
bit of work.
a little bit. I couldn't imagine. I had no idea that it was going to be what it was. Um, I mean, a great house, great bones, as a real estate
Right,
agent would
right, right.
say.
Mm.
But you're not going to get top dollar for a home that's in poor condition.
Yeah, man.
So
Come on.
we had to have
Yeah.
that conversation as well.
Right. That's hilarious. And this is why I'm also a fan of every now and then you got to do a purge in your home, man. I've only been in my home for what, maybe 2 years, and I'm already going in rooms and like, where did this come from? How long have we had this? Like this could be thrown away or given away. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh,
So a
yeah.
lot of people do that during spring cleaning. I just feel like at certain periods throughout the year, a month or whatever, you have to purge every now and then because there's a lot of stuff in your house that you probably don't even know is in there or don't even use. So that will help out when selling a home. So
Yeah, I agree. And that's funny you say that because I tell all of my, especially first-time buyer clients,
hmm
to schedule a pickup with one of the donation services in the area. I typically
mm,
work with the Vietnam Veterans of America, but you can actually just like go on your phone, schedule a pickup date, and then that's on your calendar. Somebody will be knocking on your door looking for donations. So if you have it scheduled, consistently, you're going to be purging stuff left and right and consistently.
that's a great point too. I thought nothing about that. So you can call them and they'll come to you. So it's not even like you have to drive anywhere. Oh,
Right.
look at that. And I'm pretty sure they'll take donations, cars, furniture, clothes, stuff like that.
Not cars, but
Oh,
they'll
okay. I went
take,
too far.
yeah. But
I
they'll
got
take
you.
furniture and
Okay,
clothes
right,
and
right.
all of that. Yeah.
All right, all right. Take your car somewhere else. It's
Yeah.
all right, cool, cool, cool. Okay, so you said it's important to have an agent who's not only knowledgeable but active in the market. What does it mean to be active, and what would be the opposite of that? I mean, obviously inactive, but describe the two and the differences.
Sure. So, um, anyone can become a real estate agent. The threshold to get licensed is pretty low.
Right.
So there are a lot of people in the state of Michigan that have their license purely so that they can help, those random family members here and there that mention that they're selling a home or
Right. Okay.
real estate transactions for themselves.
Mhm.
And then there's also agents that are newer or who have been in the business for 30 years and are slowing down and they're not as I guess I should say they're just not out there. They're
Mm.
not boots on the ground checking out homes, working with buyers consistently. So one of the biggest things to be considered, I guess, an active agent would be to be working with people first of
Right.
all, and and that can look in so many different um, it can look so many different ways. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to have 20 buyers at a time to be an active agent, but to be showing properties consistently, and by consistently I mean weekly. And if you
Mm,
don't have appointments with your buyer clients, make appointments as an agent preview. Go and preview as an agent these homes that are on the market so that you can stay up to date on the market that you're serving. I do that all the time, especially in Farmington. If I have a slower week, or I don't have a client looking in Farmington, I'll schedule agent previews so I can go and tour the homes that are currently active in my market so that if a
mm.
buyer is interested or has questions about the property, I'm aware of its existence to
The
begin with,
features, the
the
different things going
features.
on. Right. Okay. There, that's smart.
Exactly. But also, to be an active agent, it's not just filling out the paperwork and hoping that your buyer's offer gets accepted without having any conversations with anyone. You know, real estate is all about relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
before I'm going to showings, I'm calling the agent that's listed the property and asking what their activity is like. Do they have offers? Getting in front of them so that they know who I am, and when I call later to tell them that we're planning on, making an offer, we have a pre-established relationship. They might be a little bit more willing to give me more information because we've
Right.
already had a conversation before. Um, so that leads to the next point is always calling the listing agent before you're planning on making an offer. You have to make relationships with other agents in the industry in order to stay active. Um, be,
Mm.
because when we speak to each other, that gives our clients the upper hand on so many different avenues. Whether or not they have a listing that's coming to the market that hasn't been listed yet, they might give me a heads up because they know I have a buyer that's looking for something specific because I talk
Right.
to them. So,
Mm. Yeah. 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 See, and this is what I like about that. Some people have this conflict, right? With choosing a real estate agent. I think we've discussed on the closing table before that the majority of people who choose a real estate agent, they don't do any research. They don't interview like multiple realtors. They usually stick with the one, right? And sometimes it can come from a referral or something like that, or maybe you know that person personally and they're just getting their license and you say I want to support them. They're
mhm.
not technically active. They don't have any experience, but you want to support them. That may be good and, helping them get started and things of that nature. But in a way, you could, as a buyer or seller or whatever, could be, limiting yourself and what your potential reach could be. So I understand maybe helping someone that, personally that want to kind of, get their feet wet into real estate and get them started. But then like you said, you want to get someone who's active. That way they know the market, they know the neighborhood, they know exactly, and they know the listings before they, what I'm saying, before they really get onto the market and stuff like that. So I agree
Yeah.
with you. I'm glad you clarified that, but I just want to get that thought out real quick.
For sure. And, everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone's new to this industry at one point or another. But the
Mm-hmm.
difference is what kind of team do they have behind them?
Right.
Is their broker supporting them? Are there other agents in the office that can advise them when they have questions? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and you can be an active new agent. There's a lot of new agents that get into the business, they're licensed, and they
This is
don't know
true.
what to do.
Right.
So they go to the office and they pull up the MLS and they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what they need to be doing is looking at the homes that are for sale on the MLS in their market, going and touring them, asking more experienced agents if they can shadow them while they're out on tours or listen in
Mm.
on the phone calls that they're making. So there's a lot you can do as a new real estate agent that makes you considered active, I guess, in my opinion, um, that still makes you a very qualified person to assist someone even starting out.
Right, right. I'm glad you clarified that. Just because you're new doesn't mean that you aren't active. There's still things you can do
Right.
to be active. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. You also mentioned that all of your listings get a pre-listing professional cleaning and photography to help get, the seller more profit. I have to ask this question. Are you paying for this pre-listing cleaning? Is this part of your expense? You're paying for this?
I am. Yeah,
Oh,
it's part of my service that I offer to my seller clients. And
oh,
it's not something I've always done.
okay.
When I first started out, it wasn't something I even thought of. But the more I've gotten to know my seller clients, the more I realize that pre-listing time frame is probably the most stressful for them. They have
Mm,
to think about, and I guess I kind of come in with my real estate goggles on and I point out everything I see. So I give them a very long honey to-do list, and I think I was overwhelming my clients. And so
mm,
part of me wanting their property to look its absolute best was causing stress for my clients. And so I
gotcha.
said, you know what? I'm going to take that away from them. I'm going to work with a professional cleaner that I know and trust that can come in and take that burden from my sellers so that they can worry about packing up, making their future plans, and not having to worry about if their baseboards have dust on them and whether or not I'm going to come in and scold them. So,
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, I don't know if any other agents are listening or watching right now, but take notes. I don't think we've heard that on the closing table. That's not to say other agents aren't doing it, but to take your time and your own expense to pay for the pre-listing cleaning because
mhm.
you want to take that load off of the seller. I haven't heard that yet. That I tip my hat off to you. That's taking your business to a whole nother level and taking it so much more serious. So yeah, I mean, I can only speak highly of that because I have not heard that yet, and the fact that you're paying for it lets me know how serious you take it. So, with that
Mhm.
being said, can you talk about the difference that it makes that you've seen personally with the home having that professional cleaning and photography as opposed to a home that did not have either or
Of
one?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about it on two different levels. So,
Mm-hmm.
I had a investment property, we'll call it that, because
Okay.
the home needed a full gut. Again, this was an estate sale. So they had lived in this home for 50 years and hadn't
Whew.
done anything to the property. An elderly woman who was on
Right.
her home couldn't get to some of those projects.
Mm.
It became too much. So when she moved into assisted living, again, my clients that are family members of her have this burden to empty the house,
Right.
clean the house,
Mm-hmm.
and still manage their own lives. They had
True.
4 kids. They both worked full time. I mean, that's a lot to handle.
True.
Um, I ended up getting my cleaner in there. Took them a while to get that one into a good enough condition where we could even get photography done. And I can't even tell you the amount of interest we had on that property. I was getting notifications left and right of showing request after showing a request. We had
Nice.
multiple offers on that property, and we were able to get it sold. Now, another instance would be a more expensive home. You know, we're talking 500 plus here, really large home. Again, they've got young kids. The cleaning is a lot. So,
Yeah.
had the cleaner get in there and photos, and that one, again, multiple offers within the first weekend. When you're in especially that higher price range, specifically in Metro Detroit, because there's not a ton of people, right, that are affording these, $500,000 homes,
All right.
um, they're going to go through with a very attention to detail. They're really going to be looking at if the house has been maintained, if it's dirty. So I do think it makes a difference. We all can look at MLS and see the pictures where it's in the same price range, but there's toys left out in their kids' playroom, and the counters are full of just mail and utensil holders and knife blocks and
Really? Like on
oh yeah,
like oh my goodness.
yeah.
Okay.
But it makes a difference because
Yeah.
the buyers, I mean, they're looking at photos first. That's the first impression of your home. So it's really important that as a buyer,
Mm-hmm.
or I should say as a seller, you're working with an agent that's going to have that eye and attention to detail that a buyer
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And on the flip, when I'm with my buyers, I'm pointing those things out. So it just depends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm see that there you go with having a specific eye for things like that. It makes sense going into the next thing because I saw that you had some type of post showing the difference in the discoloration of outside home vent pipes or something like that. You
Hmm.
shared like how this could cause some type of long-term damage or long-term cost just by like noticing an outside pipe. Now, this is something that I didn't even notice houses had this, right? That's one of those things like you don't even pay attention to. But then once you put it in the spotlight, it's like, wow, do I need to check my home for this too? So why is it important to monitor something like that, your outside vent pipe for discoloration? Can you talk about that post specifically first?
Of course. So the post that you're asking about was a picture of a vent pipe that is attached to the furnace.
Mm-hmm.
And the discoloration on that vent is indicating that your furnace is either overheating or it's not venting properly. Um, and the long-term damage would be at your cost because we're talking about carbon monoxide poisoning at this point. Um,
Mm.
Another type of vent on your exterior that you want to pay attention to is if you have a radon mitigation system, you're going to want to pay attention to the venting that you have on the exterior of your home. You want to make sure that the fan is consistently working.
Okay.
And that just goes to, the maintenance that you're performing on your home and just checking it out. So, when I'm outside with my kids and they're playing and I'm picking up sticks or whatever I'm doing, I'm checking at my home. Oh, this gutter got loose. I need to fix the gutter. Or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my radon fan is still working. That's something I'm going to take a mental note of.
There you go.
And that's something that homeowners really need to be cognizant of is just the different things that make your home function and whether or not they're functioning properly.
Yep. Got to have that eye right there. I
Hmm.
think we've talked about maintaining your gutters on the show and things like that that can have a long term maintaining your sewage and looking out for
Oh, yeah.
things like that. All things that can look small but can eventually add up to some thousands of dollars worth of damage. So
Oh,
another
yeah.
one. Thank you, Courtney, for bringing that to the closing table, just in case our audience needs to be aware of that. We
Of
appreciate
course.
you. Part of your job as a real estate agent, and you correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not, you evaluate offers and prepare net sheets for the
Hmm.
owner for comparison purposes. Okay, so you shook your head and okay, so you know about a net sheet. I was just winging this. What is a net sheet first and foremost? Let's start there.
For sure. I actually just prepared one this morning for one of my sellers, so I'm glad we're talking about it.
Okay.
Um, a net sheet is something that your real estate professional should be providing to you as the seller client. You're going to take the purchase price of the property and
Mm-hmm.
basically lay out all of the costs that will be associated with the sale. So if they have
Mm,
a balance on their mortgage, that'll go on there. What are realtor commissions? What are the fees that you're going to pay to the city, to the state, county? What are you going to pay for different processing fees? And
mm,
it's going to have line items for all of these fees that are associated with selling your house so that you, as the seller, know what you will be getting a check for at the closing table. Because
mm.
that's what sellers want to know, right? Is how much money are
Correct.
they making?
Correct. So it essentially sounds exactly what I thought it was. It's like the net
Yeah,
amount that you're gonna get on a sheet. It's a net sheet. Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So can you walk us through the process of evaluating different offers when you have multiple offers from different buyers for a home, and putting all that together? When you have multiple offers, are you putting all those offers on one net sheet for the different scenarios? How's that work?
So, everyone operates a little differently, right?
Okay.
The way I handle multiple offers is by creating a spreadsheet. And I'll list
Mm,
out all the different terms that each offer is putting on their contract. So, purchase
okay.
price, days for inspection, what type of loan do they have? And
Hmm.
then, really, at that point, once we know those terms on the spreadsheet, we can usually pick out the top three pretty easily, right?
Okay.
And a lot of the time it comes down to two. At that point, then I can pull up a net sheet for each of those offers. If one has an appraisal guarantee versus another, that might add a line item to that net sheet. Um,
Mm.
so those are things that we'll look at. And obviously, the net sheet is all the sellers care about because at the end of the day, they want to know what they're making.
Okay. Okay. So I don't want to make the assumption that the sellers are just looking for something with the best price that's going to get them the best profit. But I mean, are there anything specific like that you determined what the best offer would be? Or are the sellers just strictly looking for profits, or are they just looking for contingencies, or what's going on there?
Depends on the seller, depends on what their future plans are.
Of
Everyone's
course.
different. You can say that purchase price is going to be the end all be all, but it's not always the case.
Gotcha.
I'm currently working with some sellers who need occupancy post close, and that's a really big sticking point for them.
Mm,
And especially when it comes to occupancy, that could be charged or it could be free. So
right.
that if you've got two offers that are exactly the same, except somebody's offering free occupancy and somebody's charging you per day, it could be the
Mm,
occupancy that makes the difference. So
got
it
you.
just
Got you.
truly depends on your seller, what they're looking for specifically, um, you know, and those net proceeds at the end.
Gotcha. I should have known better than to ask that. I feel like I should have known the answer to that question. Okay, that's fair. Thank you, Courtney. I want to ask you about artificial intelligence. You've heard of Chat GPT?
Oh, I have.
Okay, there we go. You're on the right path already. This is something that's gaining momentum at a very, very fast pace. Can you talk about how you're either incorporating artificial intelligence into your profession, or how you plan to incorporate it?
Sure. So I've played with Chat GPT a little bit. I have to be completely honest, I'm not the best with technology. I had to Google how to make a TikTok. I had to ask my husband to set up my AirPods so I could do this podcast. So, all that is to say, I have messed around with Chat GPT a little bit. In our
Hmm.
neighborhood, we have a homeowners association. I've had Chat GPT create the content for our homeowners association newsletter. So
Okay.
that's been super helpful. Um, with real estate listing descriptions, that's been a big help.
There
And
you go.
then one thing that we're doing over at Social House, or that our brokers looking at over at Social House, is different hashtags that are the most popular on Facebook when it comes to real estate. And ChatGPT was able to really hone in on specific hashtags that were gaining traction with people that were interested in purchasing real estate. So that's been a really useful tool for us. We haven't had to go digging for the data because ChatGPT is doing it for us. So um, in the future, I hope to use it more,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
need to just like start somewhere and figure it
Hmm.
out.
No, you're doing it. See, the fact that you'd be surprised how many people don't even know about it. Now,
Yeah,
we've had a lot of different fads and trends and stuff like that, but I don't think this is either of that. I think this is here. This is here. It's going to be here. It's going to grow. Corporations are investing in it heavily.
hmm,
They're finding ways to integrate it. Sometimes a little bit too fast, if you ask
yeah,
me. But ultimately, I think we all need to figure out at least what it is first and how
right.
we can use it to our benefit. Because other than that, it's going to be doing a lot of replacing.
Oh, I
A lot
agree.
of replacing. So just wanted to see where your mind was with that artificial intelligence in your career. So we appreciate that. And we thank you for pulling up a seat here to the closing table, Courtney, and giving us a lot of great information that is useful. Before we get out of here, if you have any last words and or want to tell the people how they can reach out to you, please do so now.
No problem. I appreciate you having me here today. It's a
Mhm.
lot of fun to talk about real estate. And if anyone wants to chat about real estate or needs help buying or selling, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Social House's website.
There it is. Thank you again, Courtney, for joining us here on the closing table. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, you have to do us a favor and hit that thumb icon. It's called a like. Please and thank you. Also, make sure you share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Duh. And Courtney, I'd like to leave our audience with a question before we get out of here. Get their brains ticking and going. What are some of the most valuable resources you found when researching the real estate market? Don't talk to us about it now. Leave your comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you soon.